the teen who memorized the Quran at 7 using animal bones. Imagine being so poor you can't afford paper to write on. Your father died before you were born, your mother can barely feed you, you're living in the worst neighborhood of your city, and everyone looks down on you. Now imagine becoming one of the 4 greatest scholars in Islamic history before you turn 20. This is the true story of Imam ash-Shafi'i, and it starts with a choice he made at 13 years old. The year is 767 CE. A baby boy is born in Gaza, Palestine. His name is Muhammad ibn Idris ash-Shafi'i, but he'll never meet his father. He dies just months after his birth. His mother is left alone, broke, and heartbroken. When little Muhammad is just 2 years old, she makes a desperate decision: pack up everything they own and move 1,500 miles across the desert to Mecca. Why Mecca? Because she wanted her son to grow up near the Kaaba, speaking pure Arabic, surrounded by the Quran. Even though they had nothing, she refused to let poverty steal her son's destiny. Life in Mecca wasn't easy. They lived in one of the poorest neighborhoods. While rich kids went to school with the best teachers, young Shafi'i couldn't even afford paper. You know what he did? He collected bones. Animal bones that people threw away, flat shoulder blades, ribs, anything smooth. He'd wash them and use them as notebooks, writing Quranic verses and Arabic poetry with whatever he could find. When other kids were playing, he was sitting in the shade of the Kaaba, listening to scholars teach. When they went home to comfortable houses, he went back to his mother's tiny room, practicing what he learned on those bones. But here's what's crazy. He wasn't bitter. He didn't complain. He saw his poverty as a test, not a prison. By age 7, something incredible happened. This poor kid from the bad part of town had memorized the entire Quran, 6,236 verses. Perfect. But Shafi'i didn't stop there. He started memorizing books of hadith. Not just a few, entire collections. By age 10, he had memorized Imam Malik's Al-Muwatta, one of the most important hadith books in Islam. That's like a 10-year-old today memorizing an entire encyclopedia. The scholars in Mecca started noticing this kid. Who is that boy? Why is he always here? Did he just correct my Arabic grammar? At 13, his mother made him another offer that would change his life. She said, "Son, you've learned everything Mecca can teach you, but to truly become a scholar, you need to learn from the Bedouins, the desert Arabs who speak the purest Arabic. You need to live with them." Most 13-year-olds would say, "No way, that sounds dangerous and uncomfortable." Shafi'i said, "When do we leave?" For the next several years, teenage Shafi'i lived with the Bedouin tribe of Hudayl in the Arabian desert. This wasn't a vacation. This was survival mode. He lived in tents, ate simple food, learned to ride horses, shoot arrows, and yes, he even learned combat and self-defense. But more importantly, he absorbed the Arabic language like a sponge. The Bedouins spoke the same Arabic that the Quran was revealed in. No slang, no mistakes, pure classical Arabic. Shafi'i would spend entire days just listening to their poetry, their debates, their stories. And here's the wild part. He memorized over 10,000 lines of pre-Islamic Arabic poetry. Why? Because understanding that poetry helped him understand the Quran deeper. Every metaphor, every word choice, every grammatical structure. Picture this. A teenager sitting under the stars in the middle of the desert, replaying verses of Quran in his mind, connecting them to the poetry he just heard, seeing meanings that no one else could see. While kids his age back in the city were worried about fitting in and looking cool, Shafi'i was becoming a walking library of Islamic knowledge. At around age 20, Shafi'i returned to Mecca, but he wasn't the same poor kid who left. He was different, confident, brilliant, unstoppable. He started teaching in the Haram, the sacred mosque, and people couldn't believe what they were hearing. This young man spoke with such clarity, such depth, such mastery of Arabic and Islamic law that even the eldest scholars would sit in his classes. Word spread fast. There's a young genius in Mecca. He knows things scholars twice his age don't know. His Arabic is flawless. Eventually, Imam Malik, the most respected scholar alive at the time, the man whose book Shafi'i memorized as a child, heard about him. When they finally met, he tested him, asked him difficult questions about hadith, about jurisprudence, about Arabic, and Shafi'i answered every single one, not just correctly, but beautifully. Imam Malik famously said, "I can see that Allah has placed light in your heart. Do not extinguish it with sin." From that moment, Shafi'i studied under Malik in Medina. The student who once wrote on bones was now learning from the greatest living scholar of his time. By his mid-20s, Imam ash-Shafi'i had developed his own school of Islamic thought, the Shafi'i Madhab, which millions of Muslims follow to this day, over 1,200 years later. So, what does a story from 1,200 years ago have to do with you, a Muslim teen in 2024? Everything. Lesson 1. Your circumstances don't define your destiny. Shafi'i had every excuse to fail. No father, no money, no resources. But he had determination and he had Allah. Lesson 2. Sacrifice today for success tomorrow. While other kids played, he studied. While they relaxed, he memorized. That's not called missing out, that's called investing. Lesson 3. Surround yourself with the right environment. Shafi'i went to the desert to learn from the best. You might not move to the desert, but you can choose to follow the right people on social media, join the right study groups, attend the right classes. Lesson 4. Knowledge is the greatest wealth. Shafi'i's mother didn't leave him gold. She gave him something better, access to the Quran and scholars, and that made him richer than kings. And lesson 5. Start young, start now. Shafi'i was 7 when he finished the Quran, 13 when he left for the desert, 20 when he was already recognized as a scholar. He didn't wait until he was ready. He started where he was, with what he had. Here's my challenge to you. What bones are you collecting? Shafi'i used literal animal bones because that's all he had, but he didn't let that stop him. Maybe you can't afford the latest books, but you have free Islamic apps. Maybe you don't have a big Islamic community, but you have YouTube and online classes. Maybe you feel like you're too young or not smart enough, but Shafi'i was younger than you when he started changing the world. You don't need perfect circumstances. You need sincere intention and consistent effort. Imam ash-Shafi'i once said, "Knowledge is what benefits, not what is memorized." So don't just learn to impress people. Learn to transform yourself. Learn to get closer to Allah. Learn to serve your community. And remember, the scholars we admire today were once teens just like you, facing struggles just like you, making choices just like you're making right now. The question is, what will your story be? If Imam ash-Shafi'i's story inspired you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more true stories of Muslim heroes who started young. And comment below, what's one thing you'll start doing today to invest in your knowledge and deen? Let's bring back that Shafi'i energy. Assalamu alaikum.